Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things, in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. Well, hello, and welcome back to Courageously Kind. This week we had the absolute honor of chatting with Sterling Marchand, who co-founded an organization along with his wife and his children that helps feed people in his community. This was such an awesome conversation. It's always awesome to talk with people that are running nonprofits or organizations that are really truly having such an impact in their community. And I can't wait for you to hear this episode and this conversation and hear just how big of an impact Be the Good is having on their community and how it also can inspire us to be the good in our own communities and sort of take what the Marchands are doing and bring it to your own community and make an impact in that way. It was so awesome and so inspiring, and we had a couple little giggles too. But yeah, it was great, and I can't wait for you to hear this conversation.
Well, thank you again so much for being here. We came across you guys on social media and just absolutely love what you started and what you're doing, and we're just so excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it, and I loved learning about Courageously Kind and all the work that you guys are doing. So
Thank you so much. Yeah. Do you want to start off by introducing yourself and introducing Be the Good?
Yeah. So my name is Sterling Marchand, and along with my wife and my 4 kids, we started the Be the Good project here in Washington, D.C., or really the Washington, D.C. area. And its mission is to help families in need with food insecurity. And we do that through a small army of volunteers that do, sort of a wide variety of things. But our mission is really to make it easy for folks who want to help their neighbors with food insecurity to get involved in different ways.
I love that. That's awesome. I feel like sometimes people, like you said, like want to get involved, but just don't know how or where to start. So I love that is something you guys are so passionate about.
Totally. We also love your name. Where did your name Be the Good come from?
It was, so the whole project was born out of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. And, early on, we, with the kids at home and just like, all the, I guess, for lack of a better word, scary stuff going on, right? Like there were so many unknowns early on and about what was going on. And so we kind of adopted a mantra early on in our family, to look for the good, and try to say like, so, okay, yes, we're all stuck at home, but, here on the plus side, like we get to spend more time together. We get to, do things as a family. And so that became part of our mantra. And, the Be the Good project really was born out of, as the pandemic was progressing, we started reading articles about how the impact it was having on school-age children, because a lot of kids rely on schools to get breakfast and lunch at least each day. And so being home from school meant that those opportunities to have at least 2 meals a day were being, removed. And so, we started saying, gosh, someone should really do something about this. Like, we reached out to some local organizations and, they kind of, were equipped to deal with food insecurity in non-COVID times, but they said, look, like we can't do anything, like we are under all these restrictions. Yeah. And so, to be honest, like we felt God stir in our hearts, like, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to go do something. And so we kind of took our mantra of look for the good with the idea of being the change you want to see in the world, and it mashed together into Be the Good. And the message is really, even one person, one sandwich, one, can of food can be a good influence, or a good, can be a good effort to help someone. And so that's really where the name came from.
I love it. I love it so much. We sort of had a similar sort of origin story. Like we started during the pandemic too, and had this desire to just want, again, to highlight some goodness and some kindness and happiness. So we're right there with you.
Yeah.
How did you guys get sort of off the ground? Like, you have this idea to address this sort of problem. How did that actually come to be?
Yeah.
In the community?
It's a great question. So we started off small. It was when, like I said, we felt sort of a stirring to do something about it. And so we literally just put a box in our front yard and emailed our neighbors and said, we're going to do a food drive. Contribute what you can, and we'll gather it all up and take it to, sort of a local food pantry. And the response was overwhelming. We got, sort of the box was full within a day, and it kept, filling up every time we took stuff out. And so, we initially partnered with some local food pantries. And then, as things kept expanding, we got a call one day from a local organization that said, the canned goods are great, but what we really need are someone to make sandwiches. Like, we distribute sandwiches to the homeless on a daily basis. And with COVID, people aren't signing up anymore. People can't come into our buildings. And so, we drove out and just bought sandwich materials. We just stood around as a family and made, a few hundred sandwiches, and we went and delivered them. And we're like, well, this would be easy for anyone to do in their home, in the comfort of their home and the safety. And so we put up signups, and again, it was like, dozens of people signing up to make thousands of sandwiches on a weekly basis. And that was mid 2020. And we've been, continuing to do that ever since. And so, it all started with like a little step. Like, when I look at the numbers now, it's a lot, but at any given moment, it was like, we're going to do this next thing. We're going to do this next thing and see how it goes. And so that's sort of been the story along the way.
That's awesome. I love it. And it seems so feels like anybody can, anybody can take that small step. Anybody, like you said, can make some sandwiches in their home and donate them to it. That's awesome. I love it so much.
Yeah.
In a recent Instagram post, you guys mentioned that since July 2020, so about 3 years, you guys have donated 100,000 sandwiches and over 100,000 pounds of food. When you hear that number and you think about that impact, how does that make you guys feel?
I honestly in awe. I mean, it's, it is literally one sandwich at a time, and one can of food at a time. And my wife and I sort of run the backbone, we kind of are the administrative but really we have over 1,500 volunteers that have participated at some point in time. And that's really where those numbers come from. It's Girl Scout troops, churches, it's, high school seniors that are trying to get service hours, like all these different folks in the community that have come together and made, hundreds of sandwiches at a time. And so that's how we end up getting to those numbers. And so, it's inspiring to know that, the community has responded the way they have. But I'll say, like, the other side of it is I'm constantly reminded that, 100,000 or whatever it is a huge number, but each sandwich represents like a very tangible benefit to the person who needs it. Absolutely. And we've heard, stories of, people receiving the sandwiches or a couple sandwiches at a time and saying, this is the only food I'm going to eat today, and so it's easy sometimes to get lost in the numbers, but I try and remind myself and be grounded in the idea that, a bag of food to a family it makes a big difference to that particular family for that week. So
absolutely. How does your volunteer sort of system work? Like, how can people get involved if they want to volunteer with you? Do you have like chapters? Explain that to us.
So right now we're entirely based in DC, Northern Virginia, and Maryland. And so if folks, are in that area and want to get involved, they can go to our website. And, there's links to sign up pages there. The biggest need we have right now is supporting our Little Free Food Pantry system. We have over 26 pantries now, and we have another 6 coming. And those are stocked on a weekly basis by our volunteers. And, but it's really just, folks sign up and they can take, a couple weekends or do it as long as they want. And then if things get too busy, that's okay. Other people step in. And, so it's really just driven by volunteers.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Such a cool system. I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of your website, you have a page on your website called Get Educated, which we love. We think it's so important to provide educational resources for people that are interested and want to get involved or just want to learn more. So our question for you is, what have you learned throughout the past few years of this project?
That's a great question. I think one of the biggest, well, I feel like I've learned a lot. One of my big lessons was, just how widespread food insecurity is. I think that it's something that I maybe tangentially thought about, often around like Thanksgiving or, the holidays, about going to a soup kitchen or something and giving back. But just how many families, and this is true across the country, the more I look, are food insecure and are worried about being able to put food on their tables for their families on a week-to-week basis. And so, it surprises me, I guess, living in a country like the United States, that we would have so many people that are just struggling to eat. It's just a basic human need. That it's surprising to me. And I think the other thing or the big lesson I've taken away from it is just how willing people are to help when you give them sort of that opportunity. One of the big drivers for us early on was the idea that everyone in the family should be able to help in some way. And a lot of times, volunteering, there's limits on, you have to be a certain age or things like that. And our idea was really, again, we wanted to keep our, have a means to teach our kids, but also for other families to teach their kids about food insecurity and about being grateful for the things that we have. And it's really easy when you're, standing around making a sandwich to talk about, like, what would it be like if you were, you didn't have a sandwich or you didn't have food. And so it gives us as a family the opportunity to have those discussions with our kids. And I know other families have felt the same way. And so that's been a great opportunity.
I love that. I love that aspect of it. Because that's, something you mentioned, like not age restrictions on volunteering and stuff, and how important it is to learn that at a young age. That's really awesome. And I love that is integrated in your mission. That's awesome. So cool. Throughout this project, have you faced any challenges or setbacks in, getting out there in the community and trying to provide this, I guess, resource and service to people? And how did you overcome those challenges?
We've had surprising number of challenges over the years. You would think that with a mission of like, we just want to feed people, it would be easy, but it's not. So our little free food pantries are primarily located at schools in our region. And, we've had different challenges getting approvals to put those on schools. And, we were, sort of going, expanding really well about a year ago. We were up to 11 or 12 schools. We had approvals with the principals at 2 more schools to put them in. And then sort of the central bureaucracy of the school system found out about it and put a pause on everything. And for over a year, we were just held in limbo where we didn't know, are they going to tell us to take everything out? We couldn't put anything new in. And, there were times where we were like, we don't know what's going to happen. Like we might lose all 11 of these pantries, but we felt very strongly that, that they were making an impact and that we could work through the problems. And I think, one of the big lessons for me was I think just naturally, I'm kind of like the person who I put my head down and I just work really hard at it. And it was like, no matter how hard I personally tried, I couldn't break this logjam. And ultimately, it was through talking with other people where we would mention this, and they would say, oh, I know someone at the county's office. You should call them. They're really passionate about this stuff. And so through talking to people, we got some local public figures on our side, and they were able to go and advocate on our behalf. Awesome. And what, initially we had been, praying for like 2 additional pantries. It ended up, just recently being we got approval for up to 40 additional pantries. Wow. So it was like that waiting period where we felt, like what's going to happen. And then like just to see that complete turnaround where we're going to expand as much as we can. So perseverance, I guess, was the big takeaway was, but also recognizing that I can't always just do it on my own strength. I've got to sometimes like release it and give it over to other people. And I don't always know where that help is coming from, but this time it came and it helped. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I love it. I think we found that too. And being able to rely on your people and your connections is awesome and so necessary sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Other than perseverance, have there ever been like a moment or interaction that really has stood out to you throughout this process?
I think our family still stocks a pantry like every week. And we make it just part of our routine. Every Sunday morning we go and we stock the pantry. And there have been times where I'm going to stock it, and I'll have people come up as I'm stocking it and say, can I have something? And I'm always like, of course, take what you need. And they'll I'll be stocking it as full as I can, and they take 1 or 2 things, and they say, no, that's all I really need. I want to leave some to the next. And everyone is always very appreciative, not only for the food itself, but also I think recognizing that it lifts up the community. I think to know that people care enough to put something in the community and to come back to it week after week, even if you don't need something out of the pantry. I think one of our mottos is, like, we're all in this together, and we should be, helping our neighbors. And, I think just showing people that someone cares, right, enough to do this, even if you don't need the food itself, I hope is a takeaway for people in those communities. And I've had people say that to me while we're stocking. So, those little one-on-one interactions, I think, really stick out to me from our last few years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So sweet.
So sweet. If someone wants to start a project like this or get involved with a project like this that is outside the Virginia or DC area, do you have any advice for them if they, people that just have that little spark and want to do something, want to do more, but are not sure maybe where to start?
Do it. That's my best advice. Do it. Take that first step. I reflecting on where this journey has taken us, I can't stress enough, like, how it literally started with a box in our front yard, because, I think that if we had sat down and said, okay, we're going to try and do 25 pantries, like, it would have been overwhelming. Right. And, we believe earnestly that one sandwich can make a difference. And so you don't have to set out to create a nonprofit, or whatever. It can be as simple as, grabbing a meal for somebody, seeing someone who looks like they need help and finding a way to meet their needs.
I love it.
Just do it, man.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
I love it.
I don't think anyone's ever said just do it before. So that's probably.
We'll trademark it right here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Trademark.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You mentioned that you guys are expanding. What is next for you guys? Where is Be the Good headed? And what sort of things do you have going on this summer?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we've got approvals for at least 6 more pantries coming into schools. Awesome. And so in the Virginia and DC region. So we're working through the paperwork and all that to get those approved, but we hope that by, the start of the school year this fall, that they'll be in place and they'll be a resource for kids who need them. We do a biannual food care package program, and our biggest one is in the fall. So we'll be gearing up for that again. In previous years, we had set, I say low expectations of 700, 800 bags of food. And we, have always exceeded it upwards of 1,200, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
And so we'll be gearing up for that again, starting in the fall. And we basically, again, recruit volunteers to sign up to put together care packages, and then distribute them through schools to families in need. And it has, non-perishables and a gift card to buy some, protein or meat or whatever you need. And then we always we ask our volunteers to include a little personal note, a little handwritten note of encouragement, or sometimes the kids will draw a picture. And again, it's just a way of trying to both involve all aspects of the volunteers, but then to make a personal connection on the back end to remember that the family receiving it, you never know what they're going through. So we want to hopefully be a light for them. So.
Oh, I love that so much. Love that so much. You're giving us a lot of ideas. We just wrapped up we started Kindness Week at our college, and we're talking about next year and what we want to do different. We really want to integrate some sort of service aspect of it. So you're giving us a lot of good ideas. So thank you.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw, I went on your website and I saw the merchandise you guys have and the shirts and the Choose Kindness message. I love that, it both promotes your podcast, but also is just a great message, right? That we can choose how we, approach one another and how we interact with folks. And we can always make that choice for ourselves. I love that.
Oh, we love your merch too. Your merch is awesome. We are going to include a link to your merch store and your website and everything, of course. How can people support you guys, even if they don't live in the DC area? Is merch a good way to do that? Is sharing the message a good way to do that? What's the best way to support you guys in your mission?
All of the above. I mean, the merchandise, I'll say, is 100% everything. 100% of everything we do, whether it's donations or merchandise, it all goes towards towards feeding those in need. So it's 100% nonprofit. My wife does all the designing for the merchandise. So she, sort of designs the shirts and the designs, and you'll see some of them are she's an artist and she hand draws, sort of the designs for that. But they're very, it's similar to yours. It just says "Be the Good," which I think anyone anywhere can wear. A lot of them have our, I love you, sign language sign, again, just to, who doesn't want to wear an "I love you" on your shirt? And so, you can buy merchandise, you can donate, you can just spread the word, or, even if it's not under our, banner, find a way to contribute in your community, find some opportunities to help those who might be hungry,
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. It's so awesome and it's so inspiring, and it is, without a doubt, making such an impact in your community. So thank you again so much.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for all the work you're doing to spread kindness. We certainly need more of it all the time, everywhere. So I love that you guys are doing this together, and I really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome.
I'm still feeling so inspired and motivated by Sterling's story and by Be the Good. It's really so awesome, and the impact that they made on their community is so beautiful. Over 100,000 sandwiches made is incredible, and it's possible because of the Marchands, but also because of all the volunteers that make it happen. And It's just so beautiful. If you want to support Be the Good, head to bethegoodproject.org for all the information on how you can get involved, how you can donate to the project. Check out their merch store. Their merch is beautiful and straightforward, simple messaging that I love and that anyone really, I feel like, can relate to. It's so wonderful. You can check them out on Instagram as well at bethegood_project. This will all be tagged in the description and in our Instagram as well. So hope you are feeling motivated and inspired by this conversation to get out and to try and make an impact in your community in maybe just a simple way. Maybe it's as simple as making a sandwich. Maybe you volunteer for a little bit at a local food bank or food pantry. Maybe you just reach out to some organizations in your area and say, hey, how can I best support you? Some organizations that you care about or causes that you care about. Anybody and everybody can make a huge impact, and it takes all of us working together to change the world and to bring good and be the good in our communities. So that's our challenge to you today, is figure out a way to get involved and to spread some goodness in your own community. All right, friends, take good care. We'll see you back here real soon.
We'd like to give a huge thank you to Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Anna Waltz is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit annawaltzlandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.